what do Falcons do? We rise up. Welcome to Rise Up Reactions, the show where we talk all things Falcons, NFL, Georgia sports, and in general the sports news of the day. I'm your host, Dr. Lee Denning, the Golden Hard Doc and a lifelong sports fan. Coming back to you today, just talking a little bit about the draft. Falcons, again, we have the number 8 overall pick. We have our coaching staff in place. We have Jimmy Lake at defensive coordinator. We have Zach Robinson at offensive coordinator, former Rams quarterback coach. And then, obviously, we have Raheem Morris. This is going to be an interesting staff. It's hard to say exactly what they're going to do at certain positions. We talked a little bit about the quarterback. We talked a little bit about wide receivers in the free agent market. We talked about what we should do if we are going to be drafting a quarterback. And I still say, if we can't get in the top 3, and again, it really depends. Chicago controls the draft right now. And then we don't know what's going to happen with New England. They may stick with Mac Jones. They may look to get a quarterback. But I'm going to just talk really quickly, assuming that the following happens. I've got a mock pulled up here where I've only gone to our pick. And I've got it going Caleb Williams to Chicago, number 1 overall. Don't know where Fields is going to go, but I'm just going to go ahead and say that they take Caleb Williams. I've got Drake May going to Washington. I've got Jaden Daniels going to New England. Now, what that means is that the top 3 quarterbacks are off the board, and I do not want to reach at 8 for a quarterback that's probably more likely to fall to the 2nd or 3rd round than pass up on one of a few positions that we actually do need and are kind of key positions that are harder to find starters the further you go into the draft. And those positions are edge rusher, which I still would love for us to take. I think number 8 makes a lot of sense there to take the best edge rusher off the board. You have a corner to match up well with A.J. Terrell or potentially replace him if we don't end up getting a good long-term deal going with him. Somebody that Clark Phillips can back up or learn around or work around with as well. Now, Clark Phillips III might be that solid corner too. He plays better on the outside than he does in the nickel. So I think that he could end up being that guy, but corner is still one of those premium positions that, we could do really well at. And I'm going to basically assume that Marvin Harrison Jr. is off the board. I'm going to say that Brock Bowers goes to San Diego. I'm going to say that the New York Giants, even though they also need a quarterback, they're going to take Joe Alt from Notre Dame as the top tackle off the board. And just for the heck of it, I don't really know what the Tennessee Titans need, but they basically need a lot of the same things we do, I believe. It looks like they need a wide receiver and a defensive back. I'm going to go ahead and give them Malik Neighbors from LSU, though. I think they could take Cooper DeJean. They could take Nate Wiggins. They could take some of those guys. They could take Fuega, whatever his name is, out of Oregon. They could take Fashanu out of Penn State. But again, these are guys that I think we're all going to be competing for. It's hard to say what's going to happen after about the 6 or 7 pick because the Falcons really are going to be the first wild card team thrown in there. And let's just talk really quickly about what we could do instead of quarterback, starting with edge. It is very likely that the top edge rushers are still going to be on the board, and you've got 3 of them that make a heck of a lot of sense here, and they're all probably going to be going back to back to back once we actually do take one. You've got Dallas Turner coming out of Alabama, who is projected to be the top guy here. As far as body, he's 6'4", 242 pounds. He's a little undersized for what we've been trying to run, but he might fit very well with that 3-4 defense that we're going back to. You also have Jared Verse, who I know is a big favorite for a lot of guys like Believe in Falcons, and then I think they've also talked about it on the Falcaholics. But he's another guy. He's got a little bit bigger build, 260 pounds, 6'4", so a little bit more traditional, and a guy who is very, who's had a very good career as well. And then I think this may be the dark horse favorite is Latu out of UCLA, who at the Senior Bowl looked like the best edge rusher in his class. He was an incredible talent at UCLA. He is 6'5", 265 pounds, and it's been described, and I agree with it after watching him. He looks like a UFC fighter and a rugby player combined together and with all the skill of an NFL caliber edge rusher. So if we're going to take an edge, I would be perfectly fine with any of those 3. I think they all have the ability to be day one impact starters. I think you've got a mix in there with Arnold Ebiketie, D'Angelo Malone, and a few other guys who are still in the mix there that can make a difference. Caden Ellis playing the inside linebacker role. Troy Anderson coming back in. Depends on what we do with our unrestricted free agents that from last year. Nate Landman would be a guy that I would love to re-sign here. So he could be filling in a role there. So you could have 4 or 5 linebackers that can all be incredible rushers and incredible defenders. So I do think that makes a lot of sense to go with edge. I don't have a super big preference on the edge. I think if I gave any edge at all, it would be to Latu, and just because I like what I've seen of him so far in reviewing his film, I have no problem with Jared Verse. I have no problem with Dallas Turner, and I think they're all marginally close to each other. I'm going to just give the babiest of margins to Latu and kind of go from there. Although I do think that the quality of play that you get in the SEC with Dallas Turner and knowing what he can do against that quality means something. He would be my number 2, followed by Jared Verse number 3. And again, it is the slimmest of margins. Now that's if we go edge rusher. Then you have some other options. Again, we do need a solid corner. We got beat through the air a few times last year, particularly at that corner 2 position. A.J. Terrell had a pretty solid year overall. But we were bouncing around with corner. We are obviously not going to be keeping, or I don't think we're going to be keeping, I can't even say his name, the guy that we traded for from Detroit, from number 3 overall pick. I just can't say his name right now. But I remember he just didn't play well. So we could be looking to take like the Iowa corner or Cooper DeJean. We could be looking to take Nate Wiggins out of Clemson. Or Quinion Mitchell out of Toledo, though I think he would be a very big dark horse for that position. But if we're going to go with a corner, these are all guys that we could go with. As far as Cooper DeJean is he's 6'1", 207 pounds, a very traditional build for a corner. He's been shooting up draft boards here. He's been projected to be a first-round pick for a while, but he's been hovering around that 15 to 20 mark. He's gotten his high averaging is like 10th, and now he's kind of back hovering between 9 all the way down to 14. But again, it just depends. I think we're going to see a lot over the next 2 weeks as we get into the NFL Combine, and we'll see what these guys can show. Nate Wiggins out of Clemson is another guy that's been pretty solid for them in his entire career. 6'2", 285 pounds, a little bit undersized in terms of weight, but he has the height differential there to make up for it. But he's been pretty good overall. And then you've got, again, we talked about Quinion Mitchell. I'm not going to pretend to know a lot about him. It looks, based on PFF, that he has had a pretty good year in Toledo, pretty good couple of years. He's 6 foot even, 196 pounds, a little bit more traditional there. I don't love him just because I don't think he's played against good talent overall at Toledo. But again, it's tough for me to say. You never know what's going to happen. You don't pick the school, you pick the player. But I still think this would be a secondary move for the Falcons. If for some reason the guy that we're not looking for is there and we don't feel good about the edge rushers, that's a secondary move. And then the final thing that we could do, obviously we can always go wide receiver. That's a position that we do need a number 2 at. I don't know what we're going to do. I think we're going to take 2 guys in the draft on day 2 and then another on like day 3. But who knows there. Let's stick with the idea that we do not go with Rome Odunze. I think that's how you say his name, out of Washington. He would be the highest rated receiver still on the board by the time it got to us, the way this is working out. Let's say that we know that we are going to have to replace Jake Matthews in the very near future. He's getting along in the tooth. He is no longer elite at the left tackle position. He's good. I don't want to take anything away from him. He is very good, but he is not elite. When you're talking about top 5 guys in the league, top 10 guys in the league, he really is barely scratching potentially the top 10, more like top 15. So it would be good to upgrade that position and just know, even though we're paying him a ton of money, that we need to plan for the future there. And it would not hurt my feelings to take a guy like Fashanu or Fuega out of Penn State and Oregon to potentially come in here and be the heir apparent to the left tackle position. Again, if Joe Alt falls there for some reason, I think he is a clear winner, even if the edge rushers are still on the board, because you're not going to pass up on him. Caleb McGarry is not a particularly great right tackle. He's okay. We paid him like an okay right tackle. So either way, you can find a way to move that line around. You can put Caleb McGarry back on at swing tackle or just move him around to where you need to be. He can be a backup. Let Jake Matthews move back to right tackle, which he was playing originally, and put in Joe Alder, put in, whoever we get at left tackle. I think it makes sense there to build for the future. And again, assuming Caleb McGarry takes some steps forward in the passing game, because he's great in running, but if he takes steps forward in the passing game, then I think getting your tackle, your future tackle, behind Jake Matthews, playing him, mixing him in here, I think it makes a lot of sense. And again, the older Jake Matthews gets, the more likely he is to get injured. He's got a lot of wear on that on his tread for an NFL player, and it just makes sense to me to get ready to plan for the future there. And again, it's a very similar move with getting corner, planning for the future, and edge rusher would be something that we need right now. Again, a lot of people are going to be saying we need to move up in the draft for a quarterback. Now, if we do that, I have no problem as long as we don't trade our future away. There's talk about Bijan Robinson getting thrown into a trade for number 1 overall, and a future first rounder or 2, and a future second rounder. I'm like, what in the heck are we giving up? Like, it's not worth that to move up and take the quarterback, to give up so much for the future, especially when we still need some guys around whatever rookie we would bring in to be good and and develop around. So I think that we definitely are not going to take a quarterback if we stay at 8. I think it would be incredibly stupid to take a quarterback at 8 overall. If we can move up to 3 or 1, I don't think we're moving up to 2, but I think we could move up to number 3 or number 1. Makes a lot of sense. Number 3 would be my preference, though I don't think the Patriots are going to move off of that. I do think they're going to take a quarterback. If they did not take a quarterback, and we did not move up to their draft position, then I think you're looking at the New York Giants taking somebody ahead of us. So again, kind of hurts us there. I think they would pass on a tackle and go for quarterback if a quarterback, one of the top 3 quarterbacks, was available. So we are still unlikely to get one of the top 3 unless we trade up. And it's going to have to probably be for the number 1 or the number 3 position. Number 3, obviously, we're probably going to give up this year's first rounder and probably a future first rounder, but I don't think we have to give up Bijan. I don't think we have to give up a ton of day 2 picks either now or in the future. I think that's a much more even trade. But let me know what you think down in the comments below. Am I off on what I think we should do with that number 8 pick? Are you saying we don't need an edge, we don't need a corner, we don't need tackle? What do you guys think? Let me know down in the comments below. Thank you so much to the 200 plus of you who have chosen to subscribe and follow me. It means the world to me. We're going to continue to try and keep this channel growing. I think I've got the bugs worked out for the draft coming up in April. I will be live streaming that. I said I was going to last year. And then YouTube hit me with this stupid, you got to wait 24 hours from the first time you ever hit the record button to even think about doing it. And it just completely screwed me up. Did not know that was a thing, but hopefully we've got that sorted out this year. My wife's going to be helping me out with making sure that actually is going to work. So I will probably have a live stream posting here sometime in the near future, just purely to make sure that everything works on my end. But thank you guys again for watching, liking, sharing, subscribing, and as always, rise up.